YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. One magic potion to kill them all. If you haven't heard, RFK and the current Trump administration is once again working on a universal vaccine to protect against pandemic-prone viruses. And for anybody out there who isn't awake yet to the father of the vaccines, the man who went forward with Operation Warp Speed, any conservative out there, any Christian out there should have learned a lesson a few years ago, because most of them actually did. Most of them actually did wake up and say, wow, mRNA is this? This is what's in these shots? And then they started learning about their own immune systems. And they started learning that the body heals itself, that you don't actually need a vaccine, and you definitely don't need a vaccine to heal yourself from a common cough, sneeze, runny nose, and potentially sore throat, or any other symptoms like that, which can easily be fought off on your own. Your body will fight these things off on its own if you take care of your own body. And you certainly don't need a vaccine. People didn't need vaccines for many, many years. But you see the common theme here? The conservatives know that they have to play away from the mRNA vaccines and talk about new types of vaccines and say that we need to go back to the way things used to be, because most conservatives say, hey, you know, when I was a kid, I had my polio shot and I got all my shots back in the 70s and the 80s. So I'm not opposed to vaccines. I'm just opposed to the vaccines that they're putting out there now, because they've trusted in Donald Trump. They trust now in RFK because he's tickling their ears by talking about a lot of the subjects that most conspiracy theorists talk about, right? By talking about things like I just covered with RFK and chemtrails, by bringing attention to those topics, it gains the trust of the people out there who vote for these people or who listen to these people speak. Because they say, hey, he knows what's up. He's talking about chemtrails. Hey, he knows what's up. He's talking about mRNA. So on the flip side of that, you need to think about, are these people luring me? Are these people trying to bait me in so that I think I can trust them, and then they come out with something else like a universal vaccine for a flu that I don't need in the first place? Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And there's multiple stories going on at once in regards to what the HHS and the NIH are doing right now, including the truth in plain sight, right? Where RFK Jr. is ordering all new vaccines to undergo placebo-controlled testing. And again, there shouldn't be a debate at all about whether somebody needs any type of vaccine at all. People out there should be protecting their own bodies from putting anything in it that they don't know what it is. And you don't know what it is. Just because it has a label on it, just because a doctor is giving it to you, you don't know what they're putting in your body, right? You don't know what the long-term effects are. So we don't even need to have placebo-controlled testing, because there shouldn't be any testing going on in the first place. But when RFK talks about placebo-controlled testing, you see how deep the psychosis goes, right? Because the conservatives out there are saying that this is a good thing. And the Democrats out there, for whatever reason, are so insane about putting something in their bodies, no matter what it is, as long as it comes from a Democrat or a scientist, that they're actually arguing testing at this point, right? But I wanted to show you the truth in plain sight here, because this quote is showing you how Kennedy is trying to gain the trust of conservatives, because they're trying to get their trust back into vaccines, because they know all the data that was out there during the outbreak and how many people woke up to mRNA and gene editing. So they're still trying to sell you on vaccines. They're just trying to sell you in a different direction. So let me show you how they're doing this. So he says all new vaccines will undergo safety testing and placebo-controlled trials prior to being licensed, a radical departure from past practices, which is an insane notion. That these things didn't even go through trials and people were putting them in their body. And not only were they putting them in their body, they were doing it multiple times. And then they were shaming you if you didn't do it. And then they were telling you that you should lose your job if you didn't do it. And you shouldn't have a right to be a member of society more if you didn't do it without it ever going through any type of a trial. So conservatives see this and they applaud. And then even in the article, the funniest part is it says under the change by Kennedy, according to an HHS spokesperson, all new vaccines will need to go through placebo-controlled clinical trials where some people get an actual shot and others get something inactive, like a saline shot, to compare the results, which is really funny because that's the truth in plain sight, right? Because how many people out there actually went and got these shots and probably aren't around to talk about it anymore? Well, we know at least a portion of them are. And then how many people out there actually went and got saline shots? Well, we can obviously guarantee that every single person that we saw posing on their Instagram account who was a politician or a celebrity was actually getting the saline shots while the rest of the world was getting the real shots. So how's that for the truth in plain sight? Where they even tell you, hey, with these trials, we're going to do actual shots for some people and others will get an inactive saline shot. Well, you just did that same trial a couple of years ago where a bunch of people were test experiments, were lab rats that went and got this. And then, of course, all the celebrities who kept posting these pictures of themselves all over their social media accounts. And if any celebrity out there didn't do it, they were shamed. We could look up pretty much every single celebrity. And most of you know, while all this stuff was going on, I covered this. There was hundreds of celebrities. They were even bragging in People magazine, showing you every single one that actually got their shot. And of course, that's part of mind control, right? They were using social engineering like they did with Elvis and the polio shot to get the sheeple out there to get on board and go be test experiments for the government to go line up and get this put in their bodies. While, of course, all the celebrities were getting saline shots, right? And then you get this. Scientists say that NIH officials told them to scrub mRNA references on grants. So what they're doing now is they're pretending like mRNA is going to be removed and they're going to push it to the side and RFK is going to clean house. Who's to say that they're just not going to tell you that these shots are mRNA? You're going to take them at their word for it? That they're just not going to be on the label? They're just not going to announce it anymore. Why? Because they need to get mRNA inside of people's bodies. They need to gene edit people. They need to get nanotech inside of people. People learned about mRNA over the last couple of years, and specifically, we're making sure that they weren't getting any mRNA put in them. So what do you think the government's going to do when they have to get it in people? And they know that even conservatives responded to Donald Trump by saying, whoa, no, we're not doing that. Even on day one, when Trump was put in office and he talked about how they were going to look for that cancer vaccine. And the head of Oracle and Trump and all these guys, Sam Altman, all talked about how artificial intelligence and mRNA gene editing was going to be the cure. Well, immediately we got pushback even then from these people. So they just said to themselves, you know what? We're just going to pretend like we're dumping mRNA. Because how are these people going to know? What are they going to bring it home and put it under a microscope? Are you going to go to CVS and ask the person who stabs you if you could put it under a microscope? And even if you could put it under a microscope, how would you know how to study or test for mRNA unless you're a scientist? How many people out there are scientists? Not many, but you're not going to be able to get access to it. They don't let you walk home with the vial after you take the shot. They don't say, hey, here's your little vial you can take home with you to keep for put on your trophy shelf. No, they give you a shot, they give it your little card, and then you exit, right? So nobody's going to know if it's in there or not. But if they're out there and announcing to people that they're not giving you mRNA anymore, then you're gaining trust. Ooh, it's not okay, they're dumping mRNA. They know what's up, right? They know what's up. They're talking about chemtrails. They know what's up. They're talking about DARPA. Okay, well, I think I could trust them now because they're out there talking about it and they're saying that they're going to do something about it. They're telling us that they're not going to give us mRNA anymore. And they're going to find an actual vaccine, a one-shot deal that's going to cure all this stuff so we don't have to keep going back and back and back. Instead of just saying, they're still pushing vaccines on us. They're still talking about vaccines. And then you have two opposing parties, right? Conservatives who are in for a universal vaccine as long as it's not mRNA, and then the other side who wants mRNA. Instead of everybody just saying, why are we putting any of this stuff in our body and trusting in any of these people who every single day do nothing but divide us? And when we talk about a universal shot, then you have this other insanity that's out there because the liberal media, you won't even believe some of the articles that are out there in regards to the stuff that RFK is doing. updated COVID shots for the fall may be in jeopardy under Kennedy's new rules. Yeah, that's right. There's people still out there who are getting their quarterly shots, and people are upset that Kennedy is doing anything that might get in the way of them and going and taking their shot. That's how insane this whole psychosis has gotten. Here's the article. This is from NBC News. Okay, the anticipated rollout of the COVID shots this fall might be at risk after a change by Health and Human Services Secretary RFK in how vaccines are tested. Under the change by Kennedy, according to an HHS spokesperson, all new vaccines will need to go through placebo-controlled clinical trials where some get the actual shot, others get something like a saline shot. Running trials that include a placebo group is already routine for most vaccines. The original COVID ones from Pfizer and Moderna, approved in 2020, went through placebo-controlled trials. But as the virus continued to mutate and the vaccines needed to be updated to match the circulating strain, drug makers moved to a flu-like vaccine model using smaller studies to test how well the updated shots triggered the immune response against the variant. Like the annual flu shot, the updated COVID vaccines weren't treated as entirely new products since they're still used with the same formula, with just a tweak to what strain the vaccine would be targeting. The mRNA COVID vaccines were designed so that this change would be particularly easy to make in the event the shots needed to be quickly updated. So in other words, every time they had a variant, they really just gave you more of a dosage of whatever you were putting inside your body, which we all know was poison, right? Without testing these things, these people went there. They willingly were participants in this. They loved it. They loved the idea of it. They hated the fact that you even questioned it, which is utterly insane. It's utterly insane. I mean, they could get injected with heroin and they wouldn't even know. I mean, other than maybe feeling a little bit loopy. They have no idea what they're putting in their body. They don't even care that they're not even testing it, which, I mean, it's really utter madness. The whole thing is utter madness. The fact that people are still going there for their updates. But the fact that they even spoke about all these different variants at the time, and they were coming out and just going, oh yeah, we've got a new one ready every couple of months. Oh, they've got a new one ready that they just came up with in 2 to 3 months' time. It's really insanity. So quickly in this case, turns out to be several months in order to have enough doses ready for the fall. Vaccine makers are told what strain to target in the spring. The FDA Advisory Committee is expected to meet in May or June to make a recommendation on which strain should be included in the next round of shots. A person familiar with the matter was not authorized to speak publicly, said the FDA had planned to schedule a meeting for May 22nd. If the FDA deems Pfizer's and Moderna's updated vaccines new products requiring fresh trials, it's extremely unlikely the doses will be ready for the fall. Okay, let me just chime in on that. There is a 0% chance that they're going to pull these shots off the shelves. So all they have to do is say that they're not new, and they will say that they're not new. Because RFK and the conservatives and Donald Trump, who's responsible for these shots with Operation Warp Speed, which he said was his number one accomplishment, even calling himself the father of the vaccine. If people are going to still go and get these shots and get mRNA put in their bodies, there's 0% chance that the FDA or the Trump administration is going to stop that from happening. They're just going to tell you right off the bat, oh, they're not deemed new. There's still those same old shots that you already got. They're still safe for you. Go and get them. And these people who obviously hear propaganda like this, their mind goes, oh my goodness, please don't take it away. You know, almost like a crack addict. And they go, don't take it away. And then when they come out and say in June, well, the FDA has deemed that it's not new, so they'll be ready for the fall. All these people will celebrate and shit. Like, I'll make sure I'll go get mine before RFK tries to pull them off the shelf. So these people will be lined up. No joke. I mean, that's how insane this has gotten. But, you know, there's really no words at this point to describe what we're seeing, especially in 2025, where we still have people masked. We still have people who are going and getting their quarterly shots, you know, and then you have them come out here and try to gain your trust by telling you, because all the data showed that the majority of conspiracy videos, the majority of videos that were removed from the internet, the majority of people who were removed, the majority of doctors who lost their license to practice were people who were opposed to mRNA. That's what it was. So, of course, when they see that, they say, okay, well, what are things that we can do to get people to get shots? Because we have to get this in their body. We got to connect them to the internet of bodies. And yes, there are things like smart dust. Yes, there are things that are already connecting people, but they need to get these injections directly inside of people's bodies in order to edit their genetic codes, right? So then you just change the label. They probably sat there and said, well, what we can do is we could try to scare them And I talked about this recently. We try to scare them with, other viruses that they've heard about in the past. We could tell them that there's a malaria outbreak, and then they'll go and get it because maybe they've already built this into their mind, a fear of malaria. Because when COVID hit, nobody had ever heard of it. So there wasn't this huge fear. They thought that, well, we'll just make one up out of thin air, and they'll be so scared because they'd never heard of it that they'll go and get it. But people were starting to realize when the media was coming out reporting 0 cases of the flu that it was the same thing, right? So that was the first thing I believe they were trying to do, was name other diseases and say that they had new mRNA vaccines and say there was new outbreaks so people would go and get it. They watch all the data, obviously, and they said, look, the problem is that these people, it's not so much that they don't want to get vaccinated, because we hear a lot of these people say, well, I still vaccinated my kids because, even though I'm a conservative, I don't believe in vaccines. That's what I did when I was a kid. So they're going, okay, there's still a little bit of a trust there, but the problem seems to be in mRNA. So boom, what are they going to do? They're going to come out and tell you that it isn't it anymore. And that's all, you're going to take them at their word? After the way they behave and what they've done for the last couple of years, you're going to take the government at their word. All they have to do is say, nope, there's no longer mRNA. We've banned it. Oh, okay, you've banned it. So we know what's inside of these things. How about we just remove them all? Remove them all. People out there are going to get flu shots still? You're afraid you're going to get a runny nose? I mean, does the propaganda actually work in these people where they tell you that people die from the flu? Sure, somebody could die from the flu or pneumonia at a certain age if their immune system is so weak. But these don't cure you from the flu. They even tell you that if you get a flu shot, there's still a 50% chance of you getting the flu. So why would anybody in the world ever go and get it? That's the debate that shouldn't even be occurring. If Trump and RFK, they would be out there just saying, look, these are things you could put in your body, foods you could eat, how you could take care of yourself, and take care of your temple, take care of your body, so that you can fight off diseases naturally, because these things don't work in the first place. But they don't do that because they're playing on people's emotions and thinking, hey, he's at least throwing those out. And I got shots when I was a kid, because back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, nobody was really questioning this stuff. Not until the 2000s, when we saw these spikes in autism, et cetera, that a lot of us were realizing what it was from. And then, of course, this whole entire experiment that they did with the outbreak really caused a big backfire that they didn't expect, which was people questioning vaccines. They didn't expect people to question that. They didn't expect it to become a political issue. They tried their best to make it not a political issue. They really did. If you look back at the propaganda, and I covered it for years, what did they do? They had Trump as the one who rolled it out, and then they had Biden as going to office as the next guy. So it was a combination. Well, whose vaccine is it really? Well, Trump was claiming he's the father of the vaccine, telling the conservatives to go and get it. Biden telling the Democrats to go and get it. Somehow the Democrats, the majority of them went and got it. The conservatives still wouldn't listen to Trump and go and get it. And they realized, wow, well, a lot of it was the mRNA. So let's just remove it. Let's tell them we're going to have a universal shot, because we saw these people were not going to go 5 times a year to get a shot for this, and this. So we'll say it'll be 1 shot per year, universal. And we'll promise you it's not mRNA, and we'll do these tests, right? We'll actually run tests this time. So this is just a typical bait move where everybody out there who is a conservative should be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not putting crap in my body. In fact, over the last 4 years, I've learned about how to take better care of my body and build up my immune system, so I don't need any of these things. And I shouldn't need them in the first place, because they don't cure me or make me immune to anything anyway. In fact, most of these trials that they do are actually experiments in what we call shedding. Yeah, shedding, because they're actually giving you live viruses, and then you shed it on other people, kind of what happened during polio. But I'll end it there, because, of course, these types of videos are always at risk of getting a strike. But, of course, I support everybody's right to choose and what they want to do here in regards to putting something inside their body. But I would think that the people listening to my channel are obviously smart enough not to fall for it. And I was only saying that last line for the algorithm out there, because they love lines like that. So don't fall for this type of stuff. They're playing into you by telling you that they're going to do these things for you, just like they're talking about getting rid of chemtrails. They're not doing anything for our benefit. They are luring people in, because they are nothing but deceivers. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.